Ho'i'i Loko'i'a was built 400 to 500 years ago, and back in the 1500s, there's information saying that Umi'aliloa, who was a chief back then, had partaked in restoring this pond. And then several centuries later, other notable chiefs, including Keikaulike and even Kamehameha the Great in the early 1800s, had helped restore this pond.
Aloha kahiaka and e komamai. Kako, welcome to Kalepolepo. Here we are this morning at the beautiful Ko'i'i Loko'i'a. We're out there on the north wall trying to put the pohaku where they need to be. Our kuleana is to malama, or care for the first people. As we take care of the elders, they take care of us, because we are all connected.
Well, Hawaiian fish ponds were kind of like the ice box where people could go get fish. If it's a day where they can't go out fishing, if it's too windy or something, they can always they can still get food.
So here is a model that we developed for demonstrating to the public how a Loko'i'a works. And it's the local kuapa style fish pond of what Ko'i'i is made basically of a kuapa, which is a stone rock wall, and a makaha, which is a sluice gate that has slits between the different pieces of wood. And during the changes of the tides, the fish, such as the ava and the ama, will come and be attracted into the area where the makaha is located. And the changing of the tides, it creates a current here that allows the smaller fish to fit through the slats of the makaha and enter into the pond. Now, Hawaiian fish ponds were very shallow areas that allowed a lot of sunlight to penetrate through the water column and promote the growth of a lot of seaweed. And when the small fish would enter, they would eat a lot of that seaweed or limu, and they eventually get too large and too fat to fit back out through the makaha.
The fish will get big there, and the bigger they get, the more babies they have, and then those will be able to repopulate the other area.
When Hawaiians built native Hawaiian fish ponds, they wouldn't just put it anywhere along the shorelines. They would find a place where it had a freshwater source. And just the northern side and south side of our pond are two rivers that run periodically throughout the year, as well as there's a lot of fresh water that seeps up through the sand here, because Kihei generally is actually a wetland. And unfortunately, through construction, a lot of that wetland has been filled in.
A wetland is an area that sometimes there's a spring that comes up, or sometimes it's just an end of a river, and it's where the sea meets fresh water usually. So a lot of times wetlands are dependent on the tides. When the tides come up, the water gets deeper, and so they have a little bit of salt water, but they also have fresh water. And they're very important places for things like seabirds and juvenile fish. A lot of times you could grow fish in those kinds of places.
The seaweed starts to grow because of that nice mixture of brackish water with the salt water and the fresh water. And when you have enough seaweed and the right types of seaweed, then that helps lure in the herbivorous fish, such as the ava and the ama, the mullet. And those were the most ideal type of fish to be raised within a pond. And then from there, those herbivorous fish would become food for the carnivores. And then those type of fish would also be entering into the pond. So you'd have a whole food web that would be going on just by enclosing a portion of the shoreline in the most ideal areas where there is fresh water source also. But as you can imagine, over time, the pond has been neglected, and other things drew people's attention away from making sure that this pond was here.
Today in Hawaii, our reefs are in not very good shape. We've been watching them decline one by one by one. And it's really sad, but it's mostly from land practices. It's mostly from runoff from the land. A lot of it is from overfishing. There is a huge amount of bycatch, especially with netting, with like big nets and trawls. and also with long lines. The long line fishing has been very destructive to other species that they're not even targeting, because they have these miles and miles of hooks with bait on it, and things like those turtles and seabirds and all kinds of things are coming and they bite the hook, and then they don't bring it in right away. It's not like when you fish and you feel something is on your line so you pull it in. They're just dragging those things for a long time, so by the time they pull it in, the things are usually dead. There's estimates by scientific studies that they've been doing for the last few years that about 90% of the commercial fish are gone. And then because the fish were overfished, they're not there eating the algae, so the algae just continues to grow and smother out the reefs. And that's the good thing about the fish ponds, is most of those fish eat algae. So you don't really have to do anything. You just have to let the algae grow. And that pretty much happens on its own. It happens naturally. So that's why the fish ponds work so well, is because the algae grows in there, the little fish eat that, and then we're not taking away from some other food source to feed them.
So back in 1996, many residents from this immediate area, including Menehune Shores condominium, had gotten together and they were interested in making sure that this fish pond was going to be here for future generations to enjoy. So in 1996, they got some researchers together to research the history of the pond, and it was very surprising to find out that Ko'i'e'i'e had incredible significance to the Hawaiian culture and the history of our culture. And those residents were able to get it on the national and state registers of historic places. And then following that, 2 years later, we formed our nonprofit called Au'au o na Lokoi o Maui, or the Association of the Fish Ponds of Maui. And since then, in 1998, we have been developing education programs for the community to be here to learn about the Hawaiian fish ponds, as well as the Hawaiian culture, its traditions and practices. And in 2005, we received the okay from the state and received many permits to be able to start the actual restoration of the wall. And as you can see behind me, the middle section of our wall has not even been touched. However, the outskirts, or the north side and the south side of the wall, have been restored over these past 5 years. And we're very excited to see the wall going out one rock at a time. And it wouldn't be done without the help of our community, as well as the supporters who have given us grants in the past to be able to support our work.
So as we put the stone upon stone, we're putting our culture back together. So as we revitalize our culture, we revitalize the wall. Yeah. And so what goes along with just putting stone on stone comes the olis, the chants, the hula. It affects every part of our resources, not just the ocean, from mountain to sea. Yeah. So everything becomes impacted. We start to see the aumakua come back. We start to see the humpback whales playing, the Hawaiian monk seal returning, the honuea sleeping on the pohaku. So it is really, really a nice place to be, and a nice reward to see.
It's really nice to see that the ponds are being rebuilt and that people are getting excited about it and wanting to do it again. And we have lots of areas that were fish ponds before that they just need to be rebuilt or fixed up.
Ko'i'e'i'e fish pond in the near future will continue to be used as it is being used today, where people from the community can come and use it for recreational purposes, for subsistence purposes. And we hope that through educating our community, we'd be able to show them the more proper ways of addressing a fish pond.
So we got plenty to learn from, plenty to continue to do. And one way of doing that is by coming down to this Loko'i'a and bringing your mana, bringing your energy to this place and restoring the wall.
We have community work days on the second and last Saturdays of the month from 8 to 11, and volunteers can come with their families of all ages and do what you can. Anyone can help, from the little keiki lifting up the small little ili or the pebble stones, to the big bratas who can lift up those 100-pound stones. everyone has a job here at Ko'i'e, and we invite all of you to Komomai and enjoy with us.